The end of sickness. All magic is an attempt at reconciling the irreconcilable. All religions is the recognition that the irreconcilable cannot be reconciled. Sickness and perfection are irreconcilable. If God created you perfect, you are perfect. If you believe you can be sick, you have placed other gods before him. God is not at war with the god of sickness you made, but you are. He is the symbol of deciding against God, and you are afraid of him, because he cannot be reconciled with God's will if you attack him. You will make him real to you, but if you refuse to worship him in whatever form he may appear to you, and whatever you think you see him, wherever you think you see him, he will disappear into the nothingness. Disappear into the nothingness out of which he was made. Reality can dawn only on an unclouded mind. It is always there to be accepted, but its acceptance depends on your willingness to have it. I know reality must involve the willingness to judge unreality from what it is. To overlook nothingness is merely to judge correctly, and because of your ability to evaluate it truly, to let it go. Knowledge cannot dawn on a mind full of illusions because truth and illusions are irreconcilable. Truth is whole and cannot be known by part of a mind. The sonship cannot be perceived as partly sick because to perceive it that way is not to perceive it at all. If the sonship is one, it is one in all respects. Oneness cannot be divided. If you perceive other gods, your mind is split, and you will not be able to limit the split, because it is the sign that you have removed part of your mind from God's will. This means it is out of control. To be out of control is to be out of reason, and then the mind does become unreasonable. By defining the mind wrongly, you perceive it as functioning wrongly. God's law will keep your mind at peace because he is will, because peace is his will, and his laws are established to uphold it. His are the laws of freedom, but yours are the laws of bondage. Since freedom and bondage are irreconcilable, their laws cannot be understood together. The laws of God work only for your good, and there are no other laws beside his. Everything else is merely lawless and therefore chaotic. Yet God himself has protected everything he created by his laws. Everything that is not under them does not exist. Laws of chaos, or entropy, is a meaningless term. Creation is perfectly lawful, and the chaotic is without meaning because it is without God. You have given your peace to the gods you made, but they are not there to take it from you, and you cannot give it to them. You are not free to give up freedom, but only to deny it. You cannot do what God did not intend, because what he did not intend does not happen. Your gods do not bring chaos. You are endowing them with chaos and accepting it of them. All this has ever been. That's all it ever was. Nothing but the laws of God has ever been, and nothing but his will ever be. You were created through his laws and by his will, and the manner of your creation established you a creator. What you have made is so unworthy of you that you could hardly want it. If you were willing to see it as it is, you will see nothing at all, and your vision will automatically look beyond it to what is in you and all around you. Reality cannot break through the obstructions you interpose, but it will envelop you completely when you let them go. When you have experienced the protection of God, the making of idols becomes inconceivable. There are no strange images in the mind of God, and what is not in his mind cannot be in yours, because you are of one mind, and that mind belongs to him. It is yours because it belongs to him, for to him ownership is sharing. And if it is so for him, it is so for you. His definitions are his laws, for by them he establishes the universe as what it is. No false gods you attempt to interpose between yourself and your reality affect truth at all. Peace is yours because God created you, and he created nothing else. The miracle is the act of a Son of God who has laid aside all false gods and calls on his brothers to do likewise. It is an act of faith because it is the recognition that his brother can do it. It is a call to the Holy Spirit in his mind, a call that is strengthened by joining. Because the miracle worker has heard God's voice, he strengthens it. He strengthens it in a sick brother by weakening his belief in sickness. Which he does not share. The power of one's mind can shine into another because all the lamps of God were lit by the same spark. It is everywhere and it is eternal. In many, only the spark remains. But for the great rays are obstructed. Yet God has kept the spark alive so that the rays can never be completely forgotten. If you but see the little spark, you will learn of the greater light. For the rays are there unseen. Perceiving the spark will heal, but knowing the light will create. Yet in the returning, the little light must be acknowledged first. I can only imagine, the first time getting electricity to work, or caveman figuring out fire for the first time, or flint. I've seen depictions of people using phosphorus and other alkaline metals. I don't know if that's right, but the reactive metals that are on the periodic table to interact with water. I think it's potassium, rubidium, that line. But they react very viciously with water. And you could theoretically, I think, create enough heat to make a fire out of that. But then I don't know. I've never had to do it. But thinking about moments like that, and you're like, well, that's God right there, right? That spark, the word spark, and what it is, and it's a little bit of light, or like a shooting star, something like that. Yeah. Yet in the returning, the little light must be acknowledged first, for the separation was a descent from the magnitude to littleness. But the spark is still as pure as the great light, because it is the remaining call of creation. Put all your faith in it, and God himself will answer you. The denial of God. The rituals of the god of sickness are strange and very demanding. Joy is never permitted, for depression is the sign of allegiance to him. Depression means that you have forsworn God. Many are afraid of blasphemy, but they do not understand what it means. They do not realize that to deny God is to deny their own identity, and in the sense, the wages of sin is death. The sense is very literal. Denial of life perceives its opposite, as all forms of denial replace what is with what is not. No one can really do this, but that you think you can and believe you have is beyond dispute. Do not forget, however, that to deny God will inevitably result in projection. And you will believe that others and not yourself have done this to you. You must receive the message you give because it is the message you want. You may believe that you judge your brothers by the messages they give you, but you have judged them by the messages you give them. Do not attribute your denial of joy to them, or you cannot see the spark in them that would bring joy to you. It is the denial of that spark that brings depression, for whenever you see your brothers without it, you are denying God. Allegiance to the denial of God is the ego's religion. The God of sickness obviously demands the denial of health, because health is the direct opposition to its own survival. But consider what this means to you. Unless you are sick, you cannot keep the gods you made, for only in sickness could you possibly want them. Blasphemy, then, is self-destructive, not God-destructive. It means that you are willing not to know yourself in order to be sick. This is the offering your gods demand, because, having made them out of your insanity, they are an insane idea. They have many forms, although they may seem to be many different things. They are one idea, though. The denial of God. Sickness and death, seem to enter the mind. Sickness and death seem to enter the mind of God's Son against his will. The attack on God made his Son think he was fatherless, and out of his depression he made the God of depression. This was his alternative to joy, because he would not accept the fact. Although he was a creator, he had been created. Yet the Son is helpless without the Father, who alone is his help. I said before that of yourself you can do nothing, but you are not of yourself. If you were, what you have made would be true, and you could never escape. It is because you did not make yourself that you need to be troubled over nothing. Your gods are nothing because your Father did not create them. You cannot make creators who are unlike your Creator, any more than he could have created a son who was unlike him. If creation is sharing, it cannot create what is unlike itself. It can share only what it is. Depression is isolation, and so it could not have been created. Son of God, you have not sinned, but you have been much mistaken. Yet this can be corrected, and God will help you, knowing that you could not sin against him. You denied him because you loved him, knowing that if you recognized your love for him, you could not deny him. Your denial of him therefore means that you love him, and that you know he loves you. Remember that what you deny you must have once known, and if you accept denial, you can accept its undoing. Your Father has not denied you. He does not retaliate, but he does call you to return. When you think he is not answering your call, you have not answered his. He calls to you from every part of the sonship because of his Son for his Son. because of his love for his Son. If you hear his message, he has answered you, and you will learn of him if you hear aright. The love of God is in everything he created, for his Son is everywhere. Look with peace upon your brothers, and God will come rushing into your heart in gratitude for the gift to him. Do not look to the God of sickness for healing, but only to the God of love. For healing is the acknowledgement of him. When you acknowledge him, you will know what he has never ceased to acknowledge you, and that in his acknowledgement of you lies your being. You are not sick and you cannot die, but you can confuse yourself with things that do. Remember, though, that to do this blasphemy, for it means that you are looking without love on God and his creations, for which he cannot be separated. Only the eternal can be loved, for love does not die. What is of God is his forever, and you are of God. Would he allow himself to suffer? And would he offer his Son anything that is not acceptable to him? If you will accept yourself as God created you, you will be incapable of suffering. Yet to do this you must acknowledge him as your creator. This is not because you will be punished otherwise. It is merely because your acknowledgement of your Father is the acknowledgement of yourself as you are. Your Father created you wholly without sin, wholly without pain, and wholly without suffering of any kind. If you deny him, you bring sin, pain, and suffering onto your own mind because of the power he gave it. Your mind is capable of creating worlds, but it can also deny what it creates because it is free. You do not realize how much you have denied yourself, how much God, in his love, would not have it so. Yet he would not interfere with you because he would not know his Son if he were not free. To interfere with you would be to attack himself. And God is not insane. When you deny him, you are insane. Damn right. Would you have him share your insanity? I don't wish my insanity on anyone. God will never cease to love his sons, and his sons will never cease to love him. That was the condition of his Son's creation, fixed together in the mind of God. To know that is sanity. The mind of God is sanity. To deny it is insanity. God gave himself to you in your creation, and his gifts are eternal. Would you deny yourself to him if he asked you? Out of your gifts to him, the kingdom will be restored to his Son. His Son removed himself from his gift by refusing to accept what had been created for him and what he had created in the name of his Father. Heaven waits for his return, for it was created as the dwelling place of God's Son. You are not at home anywhere else, or in any other condition. Do not deny yourself the joy that was created for you, for the misery you made for yourself. God has given you the means for undoing what you have made. Listen, and you will learn how to remember what you are. If God knows his children as wholly sinless, it is blasphemous to perceive them as guilty. If God knows his children as wholly without pain, it is blasphemous to perceive suffering anywhere. If God knows of these illusions and the many other forms that blasphemy may take, are refusals to accept creation as it is, If God created his Son perfect, that is how you must learn to see him, to learn of his reality, and as part of the sonship. That is how you must see yourself to learn of yours. Do not perceive anything God does not create, or you are denying him. His is the only fatherhood, and it is yours only because he has given it to you. Your gifts to yourself are meaningless, but your gifts to your creations are like his, because they are given in his name. That is why your creations are as real as his. Yet the real fatherhood must be acknowledged if the real Son is to be known. You believe that the sick things you have made are your real creations, but you believe the sick images you perceive are the sons of God. Only if you accept the fatherhood of God will you have anything, because his fatherhood gave you everything. This is why you deny him. This is why to deny him is to deny yourself. Arrogance is the denial of love because love shares and arrogance withholds. As long as both appear to you to be desirable, the concept of choice, which is not of God, will remain with you. While this is not true in eternity, it is true in time, so that while time lasts in your mind, there will be choices. Time itself is your choice. If you would remember eternity, you must look only on the eternal. If you allow yourself to become preoccupied with the temporal, you are living in time. As always, your choice is determined by what you value. Time and eternity cannot be real, because they contradict each other. If you will accept only what is timeless as real, you will begin to understand entire eternity and make it yours. So everything that we do here, right? So when you go through school, and if you take school properly, your life's supposed to be better. So if you think about your life as like school, and then heaven, or after you die, would be life, right? And everything that we do in our life to learn should benefit us after you die. So, find some peace in that, hopefully.